What do you do when the person you trusted most becomes the one who breaks you? When the one who said, "I'll never hurt you," becomes the reason you can't sleep, can't eat, can't think straight. There's a moment after betrayal when the world goes silent. Not peaceful silence, the kind that screams. Your chest feels heavy, your thoughts spin like a storm, and every memory starts to feel like a lie. You replay everything, every laugh, every promise, every touch, trying to find the moment it all started to die. But you won't find it, because betrayal doesn't announce itself, it hides, waiting for the perfect moment to strike when your heart is wide open. And now you're left standing in the ruins of what you thought was love. You start to question everything, not just her, but yourself. Was I not enough? Was I too much? Did I fail? You start blaming yourself for her choices. You start believing that her actions define your worth. But listen carefully. Her betrayal is not a mirror of your value. It's a reflection of her emptiness, her lack of discipline, her weakness. And no matter how much your mind twists to make sense of it, the truth will always be this. She didn't cheat because of who you are. She cheated because of what she couldn't face inside herself. This is the moment your mind wants to break. It wants to lash out, beg for answers, demand explanations. It wants revenge. But every time you feed that chaos, you lose more of your power. The real test is not in how much pain you can feel. It's in how much peace you can protect while you're bleeding. You see, life will always test what you claim to be. You said you were loyal. You said you were real. You said you were strong. Now life is asking you to prove it. Not by chasing, not by reacting, but by standing tall in silence. Because silence after betrayal isn't weakness, it's control. This pain you feel right now is not the end. It's the moment your true strength begins. Every man faces a breaking point that defines who he becomes. This is yours. And if you let it, this pain will burn away everything fake. The need for validation, the obsession with approval, the addiction to being chosen. When it's done, you'll stand in a kind of power you've never known before. A power that doesn't beg, doesn't chase, doesn't crumble when someone leaves. Stay here. Don't run from the pain. Don't try to fill the silence. Sit in it. Breathe through it, because what's happening right now is transformation disguised as loss. The version of you that needed her is dying, and the version of you that will never need anyone's approval again is being born. That's why it hurts so much. Birth always does. But once you walk through this, you'll understand something most people never will. Heartbreak doesn't destroy men. It forges them. If you're listening to this, don't just hear the words, feel them. This pain is not your punishment. It's your awakening. And by the time this is over, you won't be the man she betrayed. You'll be the man she could never have deserved. Stay till the end, because what feels like your breaking point right now is about to become your rebirth. The pain is still there, isn't it? That heavy pressure in your chest that won't leave, no matter how many times you tell yourself you're fine. You try to distract your mind, to forget. But the moment you stop moving, the thoughts return, the images, the what-ifs, the questions with no answers. It's not just the betrayal that hurts. It's the story you told yourself about love, loyalty, and who you thought she was. You built your peace around someone who wasn't built to protect it. And when she broke that foundation, everything inside you cracked. But the real wound isn't her actions. It's the meaning you've given them. You've let her choices define your worth, your masculinity, your identity. That's where the real damage happens, not in what she did, but in what you began to believe about yourself after she did it. You started to confuse rejection with failure, heartbreak with weakness, pain with punishment. But what if the truth is simpler? What if this was never about you being unworthy, but about you outgrowing the version of yourself that needed her approval to feel enough? The mind plays cruel tricks when it's hurt. It tells you that if you had been better, she would have stayed. It convinces you that loyalty guarantees love, but human nature doesn't work like that. People don't always betray because of you. They betray because of what's missing in them. When someone cheats, it's not an accident. It's an escape. It's an act of running from their own emptiness, their own guilt, their own inability to face themselves. You were simply standing in the way of a truth they refused to confront. And when they ran, they didn't break you. They revealed themselves. The deeper truth is this: pain doesn't come from what happened. It comes from resistance. The more you fight reality, the more you suffer. The moment you accept that she made her choice and that it's not your job to fix her, you start to heal. Acceptance doesn't mean approval. It means you stop arguing with what's already done. You stop trying to rewrite the past and start focusing on your response to it. Because your power was never in controlling her. It's in mastering yourself. Let the pain teach you what attachment blinded you from seeing. You were too focused on being chosen to realize you already had the power to choose yourself. You made her the center of your world, but the truth is, no one deserves that kind of control over your peace. The only person who can truly betray you is the one who abandons their own standards. And if that wasn't you, then you didn't lose. You learned. You learned that love without respect is just dependency, and that the greatest loyalty you'll ever give is the one you owe to your own dignity. So stop asking why she did it. Stop replaying the moments. There's no wisdom in the past, only weight. You can carry it or you can drop it. Because the longer you hold on to the question of why, the longer you stay chained to someone who doesn't deserve your energy. You don't heal by finding answers. You heal by finding yourself. The pain that feels like it's destroying you is actually stripping you of illusions. Every tear, every restless night, every moment of silence is carving away the parts of you that once settled for less than you deserved. When you finally understand that, betrayal stops being the worst thing that happened to you and becomes the moment you started becoming who you were meant to be. There comes a moment when you realize that no apology, no explanation, and no act of revenge will ever give you peace. You could scream, you could expose, you could even win every argument, but none of it will change the fact that what's done is done. That's when you start to understand where real power begins. It's not in reaction. It's in restraint. It's not in proving your worth to someone who couldn't see it. It's in remembering that their blindness doesn't make you invisible. The greatest shift happens when you stop trying to control what broke you and start mastering the energy that pain awakened inside you. She expected you to fall apart. She expected you to chase, to lose yourself trying to fix what she destroyed. That's what people do when they act from guilt. They wait for your breakdown to justify their betrayal. But your silence, your composure, your refusal to crumble, that's what shakes them. Not because you're pretending to be strong, but because you've chosen to stop feeding their power over you. When you respond with calm instead of chaos, you become unpredictable. You take back control. You show that your peace can't be bought, manipulated, or taken. Pain can make you dangerous if you use it right. Not dangerous to others, dangerous to your old self, the one who tolerated too much, the one who needed validation to feel whole, the one who confused love with attachment. That version of you can't survive where you're going. Every ounce of discipline you build now becomes a shield. Every moment you choose silence over anger sharpens your focus. You start to see through illusions. You begin to understand that love without loyalty is a performance, and you'll never settle for performances again. You start showing up differently. You stop explaining yourself. You stop defending your pain to people who caused it. You start choosing solitude over disrespect, peace over confusion, purpose over approval. This is how the power shifts. This is how you stop being the victim of the story and start becoming the one who writes it. The moment you stop chasing, the energy flips, because you can't lose something that was never truly yours. You can only release what was pretending to belong. When you no longer react to betrayal, you rise above it. The noise fades, the chaos loses its hold. You begin to see her choices for what they were, not a reflection of your lack, but proof of her limits. And that clarity, that deep calm that comes from knowing you can't be broken by what you've already survived, becomes your strength. This is emotional power. The kind that doesn't shout, doesn't seek revenge, doesn't need validation. The kind that stands tall, quiet, unshaken. The version of you that emerges from this will scare people. Not because you're cold, but because you've become untouchable. You'll speak less, move slower, think deeper. You'll recognize patterns before they repeat. You'll feel everything, but you won't react to everything. That's real control. Not the absence of emotion, but the mastery of it. And once you reach that level of calm, you become a different kind of man. One who doesn't need closure to heal, who doesn't need an audience to rise, and who doesn't need anyone's loyalty to remain whole. The power is already shifting. You can feel it. Every breath you take without anger, every thought you redirect from pain to purpose is proof that you're no longer in the same place you were before. You've stopped being the one who was betrayed. You've become the one who can no longer be destroyed by betrayal. There's a quiet kind of strength that comes when you stop needing answers. When you no longer crave explanations from people who showed you who they are through their actions. That's the moment healing begins. When you realize closure isn't something they give you, it's something you decide for yourself. You stop asking why she did it. You stop wondering if she regrets it, because none of that changes what happened, and none of it changes who you are. The truth is, you don't need her to acknowledge your pain for it to stop hurting. You need to stop waiting for her to make it right and start choosing yourself instead. Forgiveness is not about letting her off the hook. It's about unhooking yourself from the weight of what she did. You can't move forward while you're still chained to the need for justice. You can't grow while your mind keeps looping through every lie. Healing starts the moment you accept that some things will never make sense. That's when peace finds its way back to you, when you finally stop trying to rewrite a story that was never meant to end the way you imagined. You'll notice something powerful when you stop chasing closure. The noise inside you begins to fade. The questions that once haunted you lose their grip. The silence that used to scare you becomes your sanctuary. That's because healing doesn't happen through confrontation. It happens through acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean pretending it didn't hurt. It means you're done letting it control your emotions. It means you finally understand that what broke you was not meant to destroy you. It was meant to rebuild you. It takes courage to stop fighting for someone who gave up on you. It takes strength to walk away without bitterness. Anyone can get angry. Anyone can lash out. But it takes real power to look at the pain and say, I won't carry this anymore. That's where freedom begins, when you stop holding on to what no longer deserves your energy. You don't need to prove your worth. You don't need to make her understand what she lost. Let her live with her choices. Let karma finish what your ego wants to start. You, on the other hand, have a different path, a higher one. That path is quiet. It's disciplined. It's focused. It's built on the foundation of self-respect. You learn to protect your energy like it's sacred because it is. You stop explaining your pain to people who caused it. You stop looking for closure in conversations that ended long ago. Instead, you look inward. You find your peace in growth, in stillness, in the knowledge that you no longer need to chase what isn't aligned with your worth. The more you choose yourself, the less her betrayal defines you. The pain doesn't disappear overnight, but it loses its control. It stops being a wound and becomes wisdom. One day you'll look back and realize you didn't need closure because you became it. You became the ending, the lesson, and the peace you were searching for. You'll understand that the moment she walked away was the moment life handed you back the pen to rewrite everything she thought she broke. That's when healing turns into power, when silence turns into confidence. When your heart stops asking for explanations and starts beating for a purpose far greater than pain. And in that moment, you'll know. You never needed her to make it right. You only needed to remember who you were before she made you forget. Every scar tells a story of survival. Yours is no different. The pain that once tore through your chest is no longer a wound. It's a weapon. It has shaped you, carved depth into your soul, and taught you what strength really means. Betrayal didn't end you. It woke you. It stripped away your illusions, your dependence, your need to be saved by someone else's love. It forced you to meet the version of yourself that only pain could reveal, the one who doesn't wait to be chosen but chooses himself every single day. You start realizing that everything you thought you lost was never really yours. The comfort, the connection, the security, all of it was borrowed, built on a foundation too fragile to last. But what comes after the fall is something real. You stop searching for validation in others and start creating meaning within yourself. You stop looking for love to fix your emptiness and begin using discipline, purpose, and focus to fill it. Every time you rise early, every time you keep your word to yourself, every time you stay committed to your own growth, you build something stronger than any relationship could give you, self-respect. Pain is energy. You can let it destroy you, or you can let it build you. The difference lies in direction. You can drown in questions, or you can use that fire to transform your life. Go to the gym when it hurts. Focus when you feel broken. Work on yourself when everything inside you wants to collapse. Not to prove anything to her, but to prove to yourself that you refuse to stay where she left you. Because that's how healing becomes transformation. When you turn heartbreak into hunger. The discipline you build in pain becomes your new armor. The body you strengthen becomes your new language of confidence. The mind you sharpen becomes your new foundation. You stop reacting and start creating. You stop chasing peace and start becoming it. The more you grow, the more you understand that revenge isn't about hurting someone else, It's about building a life so powerful, so aligned, that they no longer exist in your mental space. You stop wishing them pain, and instead, you rise so high that their choices no longer touch you. That's not arrogance. That's evolution. There's something unexplainable that happens when you channel heartbreak into purpose. You stop being fueled by anger and start being driven by clarity. You see how pain was never meant to punish you, but to prepare you. It gave you awareness, it gave you depth. It gave you a reason to become unrecognizable to the version of yourself that once tolerated less than you deserved. You become addicted to progress, not as a distraction, but as a declaration that nothing and no one can stop your rise. The transformation doesn't happen all at once. It happens in silence, in moments when no one is watching. It happens when you choose to stay disciplined instead of self-destructive. It happens when you refuse to speak her name again, because she no longer defines your story. The world won't understand the calm you carry now, the quiet confidence that comes from surviving what was meant to break you. But you'll know. You'll feel it in the way you walk, in the way you breathe, in the way your presence commands respect without saying a word. That's the power of pain transformed, the power of a man reborn not through love, but through loss. When the pain settles and the chaos quiets, something begins to shift inside you. You start to feel a different kind of strength, the kind that doesn't need to prove itself, the kind that moves in silence, guided by purpose, not emotion. You no longer chase peace, you create it. You no longer react to what people do. You respond with who you've become. That's when you realize you've crossed into a new stage of life, a place where you no longer measure your worth by how others treat you, but by how unshakable you've learned to be. Emotional mastery isn't about being cold. It's about being calm. It's not about feeling nothing. It's about feeling everything and still standing tall. You've seen what happens when you lose control. You've felt what it's like to let your emotions dictate your decisions, but now you're different. You understand that the most dangerous man isn't the loudest one. It's the one who moves with quiet certainty, the one who doesn't flinch when tested, the one who can walk away without bitterness. That's who you're becoming, not by pretending not to care, but by refusing to let anyone else control your inner state. You've rebuilt yourself piece by piece, and now you carry a presence that doesn't need validation. Your silence has weight. Your energy speaks before you do. People feel the difference because real strength can't be faked. It comes from walking through fire and learning how to stay centered while everything around you burns. You've learned that emotional control isn't suppression. It's direction. You've learned that the mind is your greatest weapon, and peace is your ultimate defense. Every challenge you face now becomes an opportunity to test that strength. Someone disrespects you, you stay composed. Life throws chaos your way. You adapt. The world tries to pull you back into reaction. You choose intention instead. That's how unshakable men are made. Through consistent control, through choosing to rise instead of react, through learning that not every battle deserves your energy. You start to see that life isn't about avoiding pain, it's about mastering it. You stop fearing loss because you understand that nothing truly meant for you can be taken away. You stop craving validation because you've already proven your worth through the discipline that carried you out of darkness. You stop needing people to choose you because you've already chosen yourself. That's the calm power of detachment, not indifference, but freedom. When you stop clinging to what hurts, life begins to give you what heals. When you stop fighting for control, peace becomes your natural state. Now, every breath you take feels deliberate. Every decision comes from clarity, not emotion. You no longer react to betrayal, disrespect, or disappointment. You observe it, you understand it, and you rise above it. You've become someone who can stand alone and still feel whole. Someone who can lose everything external and still remain centered internally. That's power most people will never understand, because it doesn't come from dominance or pride. It comes from alignment, from being at peace with who you are, regardless of what anyone does. You've stepped into a state that few ever reach, a state where nothing outside of you has the power to shake what's within you. That's what it means to be unbreakable, to move through life with the quiet strength of someone who has seen pain, faced it, and turned it into power. You are no longer trying to become someone. You already are. There comes a time when you stop seeing what happened as loss and start recognizing it as rebirth. You begin to realize that every broken piece of you was being rearranged into something stronger, sharper, more aligned with truth. What once felt like destruction now looks like transformation. You no longer wish it didn't happen. You're grateful it did, because it forced you to wake up. It tore away your illusions and showed you who you truly are without the noise, without the masks, without the need to be needed. That's when you understand the real victory was never about getting someone back. It was about getting yourself back. You look at the past and no longer feel anger. You feel awareness. You stop asking why me and start saying thank you. Thank you for the pain that taught me boundaries. Thank you for the betrayal that taught me discernment. Thank you for the silence that taught me self-trust. Every moment that once felt unbearable became a lesson that built the man you are now. Calm, grounded, and impossible to manipulate. You learn to see through people's intentions. You learn to stop giving your heart to words and start watching patterns. You became wiser not through books but through heartbreak. And now you carry a peace that can't be explained. It's not the kind that comes from comfort. It's the kind that comes from surviving chaos. You no longer chase happiness, you create meaning. You don't look for love to fill your emptiness. You bring love to everything you touch because you've already found it inside yourself. You finally understand that love isn't something someone gives you. It's something you become. And when you become it, you no longer fear losing it. You've evolved past the need to prove anything. You don't argue with people who misunderstand you. You don't waste energy on those who left. You move forward with quiet certainty, knowing that life has a way of balancing itself. What's meant for you will never betray you. What betrays you was never meant for you. The peace that comes with that truth is unmatched. It's the peace of someone who knows his value doesn't fluctuate with someone else's ability to recognize it. You stand now as proof that pain can be the greatest teacher if you allow it to be. You've learned to use heartbreak as fuel, not fire. You've learned that real power doesn't come from control. It comes from surrender, from trusting that everything happens for your evolution, not your destruction. You've learned that what you thought was breaking you was actually building the foundation for a stronger version of you to rise. And that version doesn't need closure, doesn't need validation, doesn't need revenge. It needs only direction, and you have that now. So when you look back, don't see a broken man. See the warrior who refused to stay down, the one who faced his deepest wounds and turned them into wisdom, the one who found peace in solitude and strength in silence, the one who stopped waiting to be saved and started saving himself. This is victory, not the kind that screams, but the kind that stands in calm certainty, knowing that everything that left your life was preparing you for everything you were meant to become. You didn't just survive what broke you. You transcended it. And now you stand unshaken, unbothered, and unstoppable, not because you never fell, but because you finally learned how to rise. Peace hits different when you've earned it through pain. It's not the peace that comes from having everything go your way. It's the kind that comes from knowing you can handle it when it doesn't. You've faced the kind of heartbreak that could have turned you bitter, but instead it turned you conscious. You stopped asking for life to be easy and started asking for the strength to stay centered when it's not. That's what true power feels like. Calm, unbothered, deeply grounded. You've stopped reacting to chaos because you've realized that nothing outside of you deserves control over the inside of you. The man you are now doesn't chase validation. He moves with purpose. He doesn't speak to be heard. He speaks to be understood. He doesn't argue to win. He listens to learn. You've traded impulsive emotions for intentional action, and that shift changed everything. You've learned that control isn't about dominating others. It's about mastering yourself. That's what makes you rare. In a world that wants instant gratification, you've chosen patience. In a society addicted to attention, you've chosen focus. You're no longer moved by temporary feelings because you've learned how to stand still in truth. What used to trigger you now teaches you. What used to hurt you now humbles you. What used to define you no longer moves you. That's growth. Not loud, not dramatic, just steady, consistent evolution. You've learned how to protect your peace without closing your heart. You've learned that forgiveness isn't weakness. It's strength, because it means you've stopped giving pain a home inside you. You don't forgive to let them back in. You forgive to let yourself move forward. You no longer carry bitterness because it only slows your rise. You've cut ties with resentment because it only chains you to the past. The more you evolve, the less you need to prove, the less you explain. the less you tolerate. That's not arrogance. That's clarity. You've reached a place where you know what you bring to the table, and you refuse to sit where respect isn't served. You've realized that peace is expensive, and you'll protect it like your life depends on it, because it does. Your energy, your mindset, your emotional stability, these are your true assets. And now you guard them with quiet intensity. You've become a man who leads himself. You don't wait for someone to save you or validate your worth. You've taken responsibility for your healing, your growth, your direction. You've learned that solitude isn't loneliness. It's alignment. It's where you connect with your purpose, your standards, your vision. You no longer fear being alone because you've discovered that the most powerful version of you always rises in silence. You've stopped trying to prove your value to people who can't see it because your life has become the proof. Now you live with a sense of calm authority, not the kind that demands attention, but the kind that commands it without a word. Your energy says more than your voice ever could. You've faced betrayal, healed your wounds, rebuilt your foundation, and transformed your pain into purpose. You are no longer the man who was hurt. You are the man who learned. You carry the wisdom of experience, the strength of discipline, and the peace of acceptance. That's what makes you untouchable. You don't rise to prove them wrong. You rise to show yourself what you're truly made of. And that, more than anything, is the definition of victory.